The massive display screen in Earth's United Command Center showed the smug face of High Counselor Peters, his perfectly groomed appearance making several military officers clench their fists in quiet anger. Even through the screen, everyone could see how the years among aliens had changed him. His skin had an unnatural bluish tint from their treatments, and his eyes held that distinctive gleam of someone who had forgotten his own people. Earth must submit to direct oversight, Peters announced, his voice carrying none of the warmth it once had when he was just another human diplomat. The Galactic Council has decided that humanity's military research programs pose too great a risk to galactic peace. You have 48 hours to begin the shutdown process of all military installations. Admiral James Walker stood at the back of the room, his weathered face showing no emotion. At 65 years old, he had spent the last 15 years preparing for this exact moment. While others in the room shouted in protest or slumped in their chairs in defeat, Walker simply checked his old-fashioned wristwatch. "This is outrageous." General Roberts slammed his fist on the conference table. "They can't just." "We accept," Walker said quietly, but his voice cut through the chaos like a knife. The room fell silent. Even Peters on the screen looked surprised, his perfect diplomatic mask slipping for just a moment. "Admiral Walker," Peters recovered quickly, "I'm pleased to see that at least one of Earth's leaders maintains their reason. The Council will send their oversight teams within the week. They will expect full cooperation." The transmission ended, leaving the room in stunned silence. General Roberts turned to Walker, his face red with anger. "Have you lost your mind, James? We can't just." Walker raised his hand, silently requesting silence. He pulled out an old metal key from his pocket, the kind that hadn't been used in decades. "Ladies and gentlemen, please follow me." He led them through the command center's lower levels, past the modern security systems, to an old steel door that looked like it belonged in the previous century. The key fit perfectly. Inside, screens flickered to life, showing something that made even the angry General Roberts stop mid-protest. Hundreds of ships, hidden in the asteroid belt, powered up their systems simultaneously, ships that officially didn't exist. For 15 years, Walker spoke softly, while they watched our official military bases, scanned our known shipyards, and infiltrated our public research facilities, we built elsewhere. The Council's arrogance made them predictable. They never bothered to look in the places they considered too primitive for advanced technology. The screen showed massive construction facilities hidden inside asteroids, quantum laboratories buried under the lunar surface, and training centers floating in the gas clouds of Jupiter. Everything the Council had dismissed as mining operations or failed colonies was part of something much bigger. "Operation Ghost Protocol is ready," a young officer reported, her hands moving quickly over the control panel. "All Hidden Fleet commanders report ready status. Quantum phase systems are green across the board." Walker nodded, a small smile finally breaking through his serious expression. "The Council thinks they're coming to oversee our surrender. Instead, they're about to learn why you should never corner a species that turned their own planet into a survival game and won." He turned to face his fellow officers, who now watched him with dawning understanding. "For too long, they've treated us like children playing with sticks. They've manipulated our economies, sabotaged our colonies, and planned worse things that we've only recently discovered. They expect us to be primitive, emotional, and predictable." Walker's smile grew slightly wider. "So that's exactly what we've let them think. Every tantrum in the Council chambers, every seemingly failed military project, every diplomatic blunder, it was all to reinforce their prejudices, to make them so confident in their superiority that they would never see the truth until it was too late." The screen showed more ships powering up, their hulls gleaming with technology far beyond what the Council believed humans capable of creating. "Send the signal," Walker commanded. "All units begin Phase 1. Let's show the Council exactly what happens when you push humanity too far. But remember, we do this our way. No civilian casualties, no unnecessary destruction. We're not here for revenge alone. We're here to fix a broken system." As the commands went out and humanity's hidden fleet began to move, Walker looked at the stunned faces around him and added quietly, "The Council thinks they're about to put humanity in chains. Instead, they're about to learn why Earth's children have always been the most dangerous species in the galaxy. The Galactic Council's main chamber buzzed with celebration. Alien diplomats from 100 worlds congratulated each other on their victory over the primitive humans. High Counselor Peters stood among them, accepting their praise with practiced humility. The humans didn't even resist. A tall, blue-skinned diplomat laughed, his triple set of eyes blinking in amusement. Perhaps they're finally learning their place in the galaxy. Peters smiled and nodded, while secretly activating the quantum transmitter hidden under his skin. Everything was going according to Admiral Walker's plan. Deep in the asteroid belt, the hidden human fleet powered up their engines. Over 5,000 ships, each carrying technology that would make the Council scientists weep with envy, moved into formation. Their quantum phase shields made them completely invisible to standard scanners. On the flagship Deception's End, Admiral Walker watched the tactical display. 15 years of preparation were about to pay off. "Status report," he ordered. "All ships report ready, Admiral." His second-in-command, Captain Miller, responded. She had been with the project since the beginning, one of the few who knew the full scope of humanity's plan. The Council's celebration party is still ongoing. Their defense grid is operating at minimum power. Walker nodded. They're so convinced of their superiority, they don't even maintain proper security during full assemblies anymore. Typical. He turned to face the bridge crew. "Begin Operation Ghost Protocol. Remember your training. No civilian casualties." The hidden fleet split into 3 groups. The first headed toward Mars, where the Council's main defense station orbited arrogantly. The second group moved toward Earth, ready to protect it from any retaliation. The third group, led by Walker himself, set course for the Council's headquarters. In the Council chambers, Peters checked his hidden display one last time. The other human collaborators, placed throughout the Council's hierarchy, did the same. They had spent years building their cover stories, pretending to betray Earth while actually serving as its deep cover agents. "Sir," Captain Miller's voice came through Walker's private channel. "The Council's sensors just picked up our movement. They think it's a meteor shower." She couldn't hide the amusement in her voice. "Of course they do," Walker replied. "They've spent so long looking down on us, they've forgotten to look up." He pressed a button on his command chair. "All ships, execute final approach. Quantum phase shields at maximum." The Council celebration was interrupted by a junior officer rushing into the chamber. "High Counselor, we're detecting some strange readings from the meteor shower, and our Mars defense station has lost contact with." The officer never finished his sentence. The chamber's massive view screen suddenly showed hundreds of human ships appearing out of nowhere, surrounding the Council's headquarters. "What is the meaning of this?" The head of the Council roared, all 4 of his arms raised in alarm. "Peters, explain." Peters stood up slowly, his diplomatic smile replaced by a cold, professional expression. "For years you've called us primitive. You've sabotaged our colonies, restricted our trade, and planned our eventual elimination. You thought humans were simple creatures you could control." He removed his outer robe, revealing a uniform of Earth's fleet. "We let you think that." The chamber erupted in chaos as more human collaborators revealed themselves. Each one had been carefully chosen and placed years ago, gathering intelligence and preparing for this moment. On his ship, Walker watched the scene through the quantum feeds. "Send the message," he ordered. Every screen in the Council headquarters suddenly showed the same image: Admiral Walker, sitting calmly in his command chair. "Members of the Galactic Council," he began, his voice carrying the weight of 15 years of preparation. "While you celebrated your power over us, humanity was learning, growing, building. Every insult you threw at us, every restriction you placed on us, every time you called us primitive, we remembered, we planned, and now we're ready to show you exactly what humanity is capable of." The Council members watched in horror as reports came in from across the galaxy. Every major military installation, every defense station, every strategic position was now surrounded by human ships that had appeared from nowhere. "Don't worry," Walker continued, a small smile playing on his lips. "Unlike you, We don't plan on destroying those we consider beneath us, but things are going to change. Welcome to humanity's revolution." The Mars Defense Station was the pride of the Galactic Council's military might. Its energy shields could stop any known weapon, and its defensive systems were considered unbeatable. The alien commander in charge of the station watched the approaching human ships with amusement. "Let them try," he told his crew, his scaled skin reflecting the red light of Mars. "Their primitive weapons can't even scratch our shields." On the bridge of the human ship Silent Thunder, Captain Miller smiled. "Target locked, Admiral. All ships report ready for phase strike." Admiral Walker's voice came through the quantum comm. "Remember, Captain, no casualties. Show them our power, but also our mercy." "Understood, sir." Miller turned to her weapons officer. "Begin the attack. Phase strike pattern Alpha." The human ships suddenly glowed with a strange blue light. The alien commander watched in confusion as the vessels seemed to become transparent. "Sir," one of his officers shouted, "the human ships, they're passing through our shields." "Impossible." The commander roared, but his eyes told him differently. The human fleet had somehow become ghost-like, passing through the station's supposedly impenetrable defenses as if they weren't even there. Before anyone could react, the human ships surrounded the station. Blue beams of light touched every part of the massive structure. "What are they doing?" the commander demanded. Then he felt a strange tingling sensation. The last thing he saw before everything went dark was his own hands becoming transparent. When he opened his eyes again, he was standing in a large, comfortable room on Earth. Around him, his entire crew materialized one by one, all unharmed but very confused. A holographic screen appeared, showing Admiral Walker. "Welcome to Earth," he said calmly. "You'll find comfortable quarters have been prepared for all of you. You are not prisoners, but guests. We want you to witness what happens next." Back at Mars, the now empty defense station powered down. Human engineers in phase suits moved through its halls, carefully downloading its databases and shutting down its weapons. Not a single shot had been fired. In the Galactic Council chambers, panic spread as reports came in. The Mars Defense Station, their strongest military installation in the solar system, had fallen in less than 5 minutes. Its entire crew had somehow been teleported to Earth, unharmed. "How is this possible?" the head counselor demanded, all 4 arms trembling. "They're supposed to be primitive. Their technology was decades behind ours." Peters, still wearing his Earth Fleet uniform, stepped forward. "You never understood humanity's greatest strength," he said. "It's not our technology. It's our ability to make you underestimate us." On his flagship, Admiral Walker watched the operation's progress. The quantum phase technology, developed in secret over 15 years, had worked perfectly. It allowed human ships to pass through any physical barrier, transport matter instantly across space, and remain completely undetectable. "Sir," his communication officer called out, "we're receiving surrender signals from 12 more Council installations. They've seen what happened at Mars. They don't want to fight." Walker nodded. "Accept their surrenders. Treat all personnel with respect. Download their databases before they can be deleted." He turned to his tactical display. "Begin Phase 2 of the operation. It's time to show the Council exactly what they've been ignoring all these years." Across the solar system, more human ships appeared from their hiding places. Each one carried technology that the Council had dismissed as impossible for primitive humans to develop. Quantum engines that bent space itself, phase shields that could make matter intangible, teleportation systems that worked across vast distances. "Send the message to all Council facilities," Walker ordered. "Tell them that resistance is unnecessary. We don't want to harm anyone. We just want them to sit down, be quiet, and watch carefully as we reshape their corrupt system into something better." In the holding area on Earth, the alien commander from Mars watched the events unfold on large screens. He turned to a human guard nearby. "Why?" he asked simply. "Why show such mercy when you clearly could have destroyed us?" The guard smiled. "Because that's another thing you never understood about humans. We're not just good at fighting. We're also pretty good at giving second chances. When we're done, you'll be part of a better galaxy, whether you like it or not." The emergency meeting of the Galactic Council was nothing short of chaos. Representatives from 200 alien species crowded into the grand chamber, their voices rising in fear and anger. The massive screens around them showed human ships appearing everywhere across Council space, using their impossible phase technology to bypass every defense. "Order. We must have order," the head counselor shouted, pounding his ceremonial staff against the floor. His usual blue skin had turned pale with stress. Council member Marcus stood up, his calm demeanor drawing all eyes. Like Peters, he was another human plant, carefully positioned years ago. "Perhaps," he said quietly, "we should discuss how badly we underestimated humanity." "Underestimated?" a reptilian counselor hissed. "They tricked us. They played weak and primitive while building weapons that shouldn't even be possible." Marcus smiled. "No, they showed you exactly what they were, but you chose not to see it. Let me show you something." He pressed a button on his console. The chamber's screens changed to show historical footage. Humans building massive structures in space while the Council mocked their primitive methods. Earth scientists making breakthroughs that the Council dismissed as lucky accidents. Human diplomats suggesting cooperation, only to be ignored or patronized. "For 15 years, Marcus continued, humanity tried to work with you. For 15 years, you treated them like children. And for 15 years, they were watching, learning, and placing people like me in positions throughout your government." The chamber erupted again. "Spies. They planted spies everywhere." "Not spies." A new voice cut through the noise. Admiral Walker's image appeared on the main screen, his weathered face calm but stern. "We planted witnesses, people to document every corrupt deal, every planned attack, every conspiracy against primitive species." The head counselor jumped to his feet. "You dare. We dare everything." Walker interrupted. "Right now, my ships are downloading the secure databases from every Council facility we've secured. Should we discuss the planned genocide of the Rigel colonies? Or perhaps the artificial suppression of technological development in the Outer Rim? Or maybe," his voice grew harder, "we should talk about your plan to sterilize Earth's colonies once you had us under proper supervision." The chamber went silent. Many counselors looked at their feet, unable to meet Walker's gaze. In a corner of the chamber, an insectoid counselor tried to access a hidden computer terminal. Before he could reach it, his own security team stopped him. They removed their helmets, revealing human faces. Even the personal guards had been replaced. "Your security codes have already been changed," Marcus announced. "Your hidden weapons have been disabled. Your secret bunkers are now under our control. In fact," he smiled slightly, "the only people still loyal to you in this entire building are the cleaning staff. We thought it would be rude to interrupt their work schedule." Walker's image nodded. "For years, you dismissed humans as emotional, primitive, and predictable. You never imagined we could plan something this complex, this patient, this complete. That was your first mistake. Your second was thinking we would act like you once we had power." The screen showed more footage. Human ships helping stranded Council vessels, medical teams treating injured alien crew members, Earth forces carefully preserving cultural artifacts from secured facilities. "We could have destroyed you," Walker continued. "Instead, we're going to fix what you broke. Every species you suppressed will be freed. Every technology you hoarded will be shared. Every corrupt deal you made will be exposed." A small alien in diplomatic robes stood up. "And what of those who oppose these corrupt practices? Some of us tried to help humanity." Walker's expression softened slightly. "We know who our friends were. Check your private communications. You'll find invitations to join the Transition Council. We're not here to rule. We're here to rebuild." Marcus walked to the center of the chamber. "The old council is hereby dissolved. Those with clean records will be invited to help form the new Galactic Alliance. Those who participated in corruption and planned genocide." He paused, looking around the room. "Well, I hear Earth's prison systems are quite comfortable, not primitive at all." In orbit above, human ships continued their work, methodically securing every Council facility. Humanity's revenge wasn't coming with fire and destruction, but with the cold, calculated dismantling of a corrupt system. And that, perhaps, was the most shocking revenge of all. The central data core of the Galactic Council was a massive structure, its quantum computers holding the secrets of 1,000 worlds. For the first time in its history, every security system was offline, disabled by human phase technology. Engineers in Earth Fleet uniforms moved through its halls, systematically downloading everything. Admiral Walker stood in the Corps' main control room, looking at the streams of data flowing across the screens. Each file revealed darker and darker secrets. "Sir," a young technician called out, "you need to see this." She pulled up a file marked Species Management Protocol. Walker's face hardened as he read. The document detailed plans to control the development of every primitive species in the galaxy. Earth wasn't the only target. Dozens of young civilizations had been manipulated, their progress artificially stunted, their resources stolen. "Send this to Marcus," Walker ordered. "It's time for the full reveal." In the council chambers, Marcus stood before the assembled representatives. The room was quieter now, the initial panic replaced by a heavy dread as more revelations came to light. "Let's talk about why we're really here," Marcus began, his voice carrying to every corner of the chamber. "You thought this was about revenge, about humanity striking back at those who looked down on us." He pressed a button, and the screens lit up with data. But this was never just about Earth. The screens showed planet after planet, species after species, all victims of the Council's management. Some had their technological progress sabotaged. Others had their resources drained through unfair treaties. Many were kept fighting among themselves, carefully manipulated to prevent unity. "Humanity wasn't the first," Marcus continued. "We were just the first to fight back effectively, the first to turn your own arrogance against you." The head counselor, now under guard, sputtered, "Everything we did was for galactic stability." Stability. A new voice rang out. Peters entered the chamber, followed by representatives from dozens of the managed species. "You call this stability?" The new arrivals took turns speaking, each revealing how their civilizations had been held back. The Rigelians, whose clean energy technology had been suppressed. The Centaurians, whose unified government had been deliberately fractured. The Proxima colonies, whose medical breakthroughs had been stolen and hidden. Admiral Walker's image appeared again on the main screen. "When we discovered the truth, we had a choice. We could have simply freed ourselves, could have used our phase technology to protect Earth and left the rest of you to your fate." He paused, looking at each section of the chamber. "But that's not who we are." The screens changed to show new images. Human ships appearing over oppressed worlds, sharing technology, breaking down artificial barriers. The quantum phase generators that the Council had feared weren't weapons. They were keys, unlocking the chains that had bound so many species. Today, Walker announced, every suppressed species receives full access to their own achievements. Every stolen technology returns to its creators. Every artificial barrier comes down. He smiled slightly. Consider it humanity's gift to the galaxy. Marcus stepped forward again. "But we're not stopping there. The data cores have given us everything. Every corrupt deal, every secret agreement, every hidden crime. Those responsible will face justice. Those who helped maintain this system will answer for their actions." Peters joined him. "And those who tried to fight this corruption, those who spoke up for fairness and progress, you'll help us build something new, something better." The chamber erupted in voices, but this time it wasn't panic. Species that had been kept apart for centuries began talking, sharing stories, realizing they weren't alone in their struggles. In the data core, Walker watched the scene with satisfaction. "Launch the final phase," he ordered. "Release everything to the public networks. Every secret, every lie, every manipulation. Let the truth do what our weapons don't need to." Across the galaxy, information flooded every communication channel. The Council's careful web of control unraveled as centuries of secrets came to light. But alongside the revelations came hope. Human ships bringing suppressed technology, broken barriers falling, and the promise of a new beginning. Humanity's revenge wasn't just about punishment. It was about liberation. And as Walker watched the old order crumble, he knew that the real work was just beginning. 3 days after humanity's revelation of the Council's crimes, the massive chamber looked very different. Gone were the ornate thrones that had separated species by rank. Gone were the artificial barriers that had kept primitive species away from advanced ones. In their place was a simple circular arrangement of seats, with every species given equal space. Admiral Walker stood at the center, his dress uniform gleaming under the lights. Around him sat representatives from every known spacefaring civilization, including dozens that the Council had tried to suppress. Today, Walker began, we present the terms for the new Galactic Charter. He gestured and holographic displays appeared in front of each representative. But first, let me show you something. The main screen lit up with an image that made several former Council members gasp. It showed a quantum phase generator, the heart of humanity's revolutionary technology. But it wasn't in a sealed lab or a military facility. It was being dismantled, its components clearly visible to all. This is a live feed from Earth's main research facility, Walker explained. Our engineers are breaking down our phase technology, preparing detailed documentation for sharing with every species in this room. Murmurs of surprise filled the chamber. A tall representative from the Rigel system stood up. You're giving away your greatest advantage. Walker smiled. Not giving away, sharing. But there are conditions. He raised his hand and the holographic displays changed to show a document. The new charter has 3 main requirements. Peters stepped forward, beginning to read from the document. First, all species, regardless of their current technological level, will have equal representation in the new Galactic Alliance. No more artificial rankings, no more suppression of primitive races. Marcus continued from his seat. Second, a complete truth and reconciliation program. Those who ordered or knowingly participated in the suppression of other species will face justice. But those who come forward voluntarily, who help undo the damage they caused, will receive lighter sentences. Walker took over. Third, all technological advances must be shared for the common good. No more hoarding breakthroughs. No more artificial barriers to progress. We advance together or not at all. The chamber erupted in discussion. The former council members who hadn't been arrested looked nervous, while representatives from previously suppressed species leaned forward with interest. A small crystalline being floated to the center. And if we refuse these terms, then you remain exactly as you are, Walker replied calmly. Earth won't force anyone to join the Alliance. You're free to isolate yourself, to reject shared progress, but you'll do it without access to phase technology, without trade benefits, and without the protection of the Alliance fleet. The crystalline being considered this for a moment, then asked, and if we accept? Walker's expression softened. Then everything changes. Your scientists join the shared research network. Your people gain access to all recovered technology. Your voice becomes equal to every other in determining our shared future. Peters activated another display, showing construction already underway. The new Alliance headquarters will be built on neutral ground. A space station at the galaxy's core. Every member species will contribute to its design and construction. It will stand as a symbol of our unity and progress. A former council member stood up, his scales flashing with agitation. This is absurd. You can't expect advanced species to stand as equals with primitives. Walker turned to him. That kind of thinking is exactly why we're here. Your advanced council failed. Failed to protect, failed to progress, failed to understand the most basic truth, that every species has something to contribute. He turned back to address the whole chamber. Humanity could have used our phase technology to become the new tyrants, to rule through force. Instead, we choose to use it to break down barriers. All barriers. He paused, looking around the room. The question is, will you help us build something better? One by one, representatives began to signal their acceptance. First came the previously suppressed species, eager for a fresh start. Then the neutral worlds, seeing the wisdom and unity. Finally, even most of the former council worlds, their representatives realizing that change was inevitable. As the acceptances flooded in, Walker smiled. Phase 1 had been about revealing the truth. Phase 2 had been about securing control. But Phase 3, building a better galaxy, that would be the real challenge. And for the first time in galactic history, every species would face that challenge together. 1 year after humanity revealed their true power, the galaxy was almost unrecognizable. The massive space station Unity hung in space near the galactic core, its spiral arms stretching out like a flower blooming in the void. Built with technology from 100 worlds, it served as the headquarters of the new Galactic Alliance. Admiral Walker stood in his office, looking out at the endless stars. Tomorrow, he would step down as Earth's military commander. His final report lay on his desk, detailing the success of humanity's long plan. A soft chime announced a visitor. "Enter," he called out. Peters and Marcus walked in, both wearing the simple gray uniforms of the new alliance. No more fancy council robes or artificial ranks. "The last of the phase technology has been shared," Peters reported. "Even the most distant colonies have access now. The era of technological suppression is officially over." Walker nodded. "And the reconciliation programs?" Marcus smiled. "Better than expected. 90% of former council officials have come forward voluntarily. Most seem genuinely eager to help undo the damage they caused. Amazing what a little humility can do. And the 10% who refused. Enjoying Earth's prison system," Peters replied. "Though prison might be the wrong word. The rehabilitation centers are doing good work. Several former council hardliners have actually asked to join the teaching staff, helping others understand where they went wrong." Walker picked up his report. "Then it's really over. Operation Ghost Protocol is complete." "Not quite," a new voice said. A hologram appeared, the crystalline being who had questioned the charter a year ago. Now she served as the Alliance's first elected leader. "Ambassador Light," Walker greeted her. "What brings you to this meeting?" The crystalline being's facets sparkled with amusement. "I wanted to be here when you finally told the truth, Admiral. The whole truth." Walker laughed softly. "Caught me. Should I tell them, or would you like to?" "Tell us what?" Peters asked, looking between them. Walker sat down at his desk. Operation Ghost Protocol wasn't just about freeing Earth, or even about freeing other suppressed species. It was about something bigger. He pressed a button, and the office walls became screens showing star maps. "We knew the council was corrupt," he continued, "but what you don't know is why we chose this specific moment to act." The star maps zoomed out, showing the entire galaxy. Then they zoomed out further, showing neighboring galaxies. 3 months before we launched our operation, our deep space sensors detected something. Visitors coming from Andromeda. They'll arrive in about 50 years. Peters and Marcus stared at the data in shock. Ambassador Light's crystals pulsed with calm light. The old council would have faced this divided, weak, with most species held back from their true potential, Walker explained. "We couldn't let that happen. The galaxy needed to be united, needed every species working at their full capability. So the phase technology, the careful planning, the way we shared everything," Marcus began, "was about preparing our galaxy for first contact." Walker finished. "Earth's revenge wasn't just about justice. It was about survival, about making sure every species could contribute to what's coming." Ambassador Light floated forward, which is why Admiral Walker isn't really retiring. He's taking charge of the First Contact Preparation Committee. Walker stood up, straightening his uniform. "The next 50 years will determine the fate of every species in our galaxy. We'll need every mind, every talent, every unique perspective. That's why breaking down the Council's barriers was so important." He walked to the window again, looking out at the Unity station. Ships from hundreds of worlds dock there now, their crews working together, sharing knowledge, building something greater than the Council could have imagined. "Earth's revenge wasn't about destroying the old system," he said softly. "It was about building something strong enough to face what's coming. And thanks to everyone working together, we might just be ready in time." Peters and Marcus joined him at the window. Among the ships, they could see the first prototype of a new vessel, one that combined technology from every Alliance species. Its name was clearly visible on the hull: Tomorrow's Hope. The sun of the galactic core illuminated the scene, its light reflecting off the Unity Station's spiral arms. In that light, the future looked bright indeed, not just for humanity, but for all species who had learned to stand together. The old Council's reign of corruption was over. The Age of Unity had begun, and somewhere out there, crossing the vast gulf between galaxies, humanity's next great challenge was approaching. But this time, they would face it together.